I cut my teeth on clean energy in rural Haiti. I was working on microgrids there. 75% of the country has never had access to grid energy infrastructure before. So during the Trump era, the first time round, I was living and working between DC and between Haiti. And that was a really transformative and informative time to understand that the energy transition isn't just about getting as green as quickly as possible. It's about decarbonising, but it's also about decentralising, it's democratising, and it's decolonising what it means to participate in an energy system. And with that viewpoint, then the transition isn't just about rolling out infrastructure, it's about how can you retain as much benefit locally, and then how do you reinvest it into your community and revitalise communities. And given that the transition in Australia is largely happening in our regions, and we talk about regional economies and we talk about remote economies struggling, the question is then how can we make sure that the transition is a revitalisation opportunity for communities. So off the back of that, I decided I'd better chuck in an application about community energy. But I specifically work with Original Power, which you'll get to know a lot more of quite soon, that it is a First Nations-led nonprofit that works alongside First Nations communities to help them determine and then develop their role in the energy transition, not just in energy vulnerability, but in a way to bring energy productivity and intergenerational wealth to First Nations people off the back of this transition as well. So my application last year was to travel to the United Kingdom and then go and study the examples of community energy in the UK. Now, that wasn't just to see all of the successes. If I wanted to do that, I'd frankly go to Denmark. They have a very, very mature market for community energy. But in the UK, there are many successes and many failures of all sorts. And so over a 5.5-week period, I travelled to 9 cities, conducted over 30 interviews, went from Cornwall, right in the south, up to the Orkney Islands, right up in the north. It was exhausting. It was wonderful. And I do not have a full and finished report for you today. But that is because in the wealth of information from talking to utilities and financiers and communities and tech developers, what I realised is if I produced a report, everyone who knows community energy is going to read it. But if I produced a shorter report and then built out a tool set with First Nations people in mind first and other community members second, then I could compound the impact that an opportunity like this scholarship can offer. But what I will tell you is some of the highlights. So as I mentioned, going all the way from Cornwall up to Orkney, you can imagine there are quite a lot of stories to hear. 3 key takeaways that I think are relevant, just off the top of, of the rough draft of the report, is that we don't have a peak body formally to advocate for energy consumers and for community energy. And when big decisions are being made very, very quickly by legacy players, that is a concern to me. I would love to see, if it's not ECA, then someone else to fill that role. I think I've seen historically how important it has been for the UK to have that body in their energy history. Energy poverty, I would say, in Australia is invisible. In the UK, there is a legislated definition for fuel poverty. And when that is not met, or when it is experienced over a certain threshold, you can bet that the advocates and everyone that has an interest in fuel poverty is knocking on the doors of their members and holding the legislation to politicians. Now, how they decide to respond, that's another story. But it is a really important critical step to just acknowledge that it exists, define what it is, and be accountable and have duties and responsibilities to what energy poverty means in the first place. And then probably my favourite case study, I probably spent the least amount of time there and probably could have spent all 5.5 weeks there, was the Orkney Islands. This is an island who has produced more energy than they consume. They're not allowed to feed it back to the mainland of Scotland. So what they have decided to do is set up an R&D lab and attract energy innovators from around the country, well, around the world really, to study whatever new innovations, models that they think could be worth replicating in the UK economy. What they're also doing, though, is with that excess energy, is figuring out how they can unlock additional revenue streams for the community. So one very, very simple example is that cruise ships are docking, especially in the high tourist season, daily. And instead of charging them to dock, they're considering charging them to offtake their energy to charge up, so that they can suck up and then use and then reinvest the revenue from that ship or those ships back into their local economy. So when we talk about how communities can retain benefit and reinvest it, that is a beautiful example. There are many more. I do not have the time for it today, just to give you a little taste and a teaser of what's to come. I would love to say, probably in a nutshell, that the Gill Owen Scholarship is an opportunity to be led by curiosity, and to wander and discuss and divulge and be, like I said, be led by curiosity. And that is, I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to do that. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Original Power for letting me wander, my employers for letting me wander around the world for 5.5 weeks and then still have a job at the end of it. I want to say thank you to Simon Quilty for giving me a very, very humorous letter of recommendation that included stories about crocodiles in the NT. Thank you to ECA, of course, for facilitating this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And if you do have the opportunity to apply and you have an idea that you feel like could progress a topic that you're very passionate about, but you feel like it can progress the energy ecosystem, I could not recommend it more. My final thank you goes to the former Chief Executive of Australia's CEC and the current Executive Chair of the International Council for Sustainable Energy. David, Gill Owen's partner, connected me to community energy leaders across Scotland and England, connected me with innovators and advocates and rebellious people that all work together to make community energy possible in England and Scotland. He hosted a dinner for me with like-minded people so that we could all just poke and prod and ask the weird and fun questions and share our war stories about what energy at the community level has been like over the last decade. He also showed me the history of community energy in a physical way, as far as, you know, here's this infrastructure that exists, like I said, the report will go through all of that. I will not, try not to get sidetracked. But also showed me, you know, the wins and the hard fights for advocacy in this space. And he also showed me the history of Gill's life, and so drove me through towns and buildings where Gill has worked and walked over the years, which was very, very special, so thank you. This scholarship would have been a very different experience without David's support and encouragement and championing what I was hoping to achieve. So thank you to David Green, who I welcome to the stage.
Well, it's my pleasure to be able to announce the winner, but I just wanted to say a couple of minutes of remarks before I do that. First of all, I always like to thank Energy Consumers Australia for continuing to do this award. As many of you know, Gill was one of the founder directors, I refer to her, of the ECA. Sadly, because she was taken ill, she wasn't on it for that long, but continued a connection with it, and I've been fortunate to maintain that. For those of you who don't know Gill and I were actually married for 36 years. We got married in Newcastle upon Tyne in 1980. Gill started out life, believe it or not, as a librarian, so only you were career planning, but she went on to be a full-time member of the Monopoly and Mergers Commission in Britain, which is the equivalent of the ACCC. With myself and one other, we founded a national charity called Neighbourhood Energy Action, which is based in Newcastle upon Tyne, and I discovered the other day now has 126 staff deployed across England, Wales and Northern Ireland, helping communities lift themselves out of fuel poverty. And Gill was also, for many years, the Deputy Chair of the government's Fuel Poverty Advisory Group, so has a deep history in this. And her PhD was actually in the history of energy conservation, which may sound a rather dry subject, but is fascinating for us anoraks in the field, because it really brings out some of the challenges that politically occur in the area. I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to carry on quite a bit of Gill's work, not only with her archives, which a historian in the UK is now beginning to look at, but also because I still have a connection with National Energy Action, which is based in the city in which I live, Newcastle upon Tyne, where my friends and I spent a great day showing Maddie, amongst other things, what was the Roman boundary of the world in AD 122, Hadrian's Roman Wall, and a number of other significant historical features which does help one get everything in perspective when you realise that you actually lived in a border country on the edge of the civilised world, had I been a Briton in AD 100, AD 200, but quite a long time ago. For my part, I now chair a organisation in Scotland called Warmworks that has lifted over 9,000 households in Scotland out of fuel poverty, and I would encourage you to look at the website if you're interested. All of the winners of this award have done some really, really interesting things. Whenever they come to the UK, I'm always more than delighted to be able to introduce them to people. Quite a few of the people, like me, it was my 70th birthday last October, are no longer as active in politics as they used to be, but are still very willing to talk to people about what Gill did, introduce other people who are the next generation of activists doing things. So if anyone is coming to the UK to look at this, whether an award winner or not, do through the ECA, get in touch, and I'll be very happy to help out. This last year, we got the Australian High Commission involved as well, and I know Maddie went in to see them, and they were certainly very interested in what the award and what it brought. But now it's my great pleasure to announce this year's winner, and I think he will appear magically in a moment. But for those of you who aren't aware, the winner of the award this year that the ECA is making is Glenn Curry from Climate Works, and Glenn is planning to examine the Californian gas transition and how we can all learn from that experience. So Glenn, do come up. I don't get to give you a big cheque, but I can at least give you a handshake. I was particularly pleased that you won it because you reminded me not only we met each other many years ago, but also Gill worked with Changeworks, so I'm delighted that you could make it. Do you say a few? No time for a few.
Been told not to.
No, enough from me. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the event. I will be around for a little while. Always happy to chat to people. And keep up the fight. Cheers. Bye.